My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all! It's time for another video about new makeup releases. Gosh, I'm out of practice. Both of these past 2 weekends, I've been away for the whole weekend. And as you can tell if you've been watching, or I think I even talked about it in a video last week, I just haven't been able to film as much lately. So not only am I not filming as much, but I also have been having to film like in chunks during the middle of the week and then not filming all weekend. So every time I sit down to film, it's like, what am I doing? Who am I? Why are these lights shining on me? I look like a little bird that just woke up. But I also look like a little bird that just woke up because I don't have the time or TBH, the wherewithal to put on an eye look today. So I'm back to my old standard, licked by a watercolor painting that gave me pink eye. And this is just going to be it today. I have opened up a page for each of the new makeup releases about which I would like to speak. As usual, I'm just talking about the things that even remotely interest me. I'm not going to try to cover everything because there are a lot of things that for me are just easy passes for the reason that they're boring, and there's just no reason for me to say that over and over again up here. So anything that's not that is what I'm talking about. And I also haven't filmed this kind of video in a long time, so we're going all the way back to, gosh, I feel like what had just happened was that Tati had just announced her palette. The last time I filmed a new makeup releases, I feel like that announcement had just been made. So that was weeks ago. Been made. Like a little sheep voice came out there. That announcement had just been made. I'm sort of picking like the most interesting things, like what to me are like the top picks for discussion for a pretty long period of time. So that's why some of this is going to be like real stale tea. But it's fine, we're doing it, it's happening. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. In no order, except for sort of in reverse chronological order in some cases because I started with the newest things, but in no organized order. In the past, I've noticed trends. I've been really organized. I've been like some sort of beauty news reporter. I've been like, here's what everyone's doing. Let's talk about the glitter first, and then we'll talk about the rainbows second. And today I'm not doing that. I'm just moving through. Maybe some trends will emerge, but in the way that I didn't have the wherewithal to put on an eye look, I didn't have the wherewithal to organize the materials of this video. Off the cuff is what we are. So the first thing that pops up is this Brazilian nude cream. And I'm not really interested in it because I don't like putting slimy lotion on my body. And I mean, any lotion. Like I consider all lotion to be rather slimy and I don't like putting it on my body. So I don't moisturize my body like out of the shower. I'll use products in the shower to try to moisturize my body, but I don't like get out of the shower. I don't do that thing that I feel like we're given the impression that everyone does by advertising and by social media, which is that like we emerge from the shower all steamy and warm and then we dry ourselves off and then we lotion up our bodies. Like I am not doing that over here. That makes me feel gross. So I'm not interested in this because I feel like this is for people who do that, but this product really makes me want to do that because of how beautiful it is. And I just wanted to give it a shout out. Shout out to Brazilian Nude Cream. Look at these gorgeous little illustrations that they have on the side of it. These women lounging sort of, it's like a cross between ancient Greek illustrations on vases and a very modern or modernist depiction of a woman's body. And I just think that it's stunning. Wins the game for lotion packaging, beautiful in every way. Side note though, and the cool thing about this in the abstract is that it's not scented. If I were to lotion up my body, it would be with something heavily scented because I really do enjoy like sweet, gooey scents. So even if I were in the market for something like this wouldn't be the one. But I just couldn't not talk about it. And this is what I'm saying, like so few things have attracted my attention enough for me to want to talk about them that just beautiful packaging and beautiful advertising alone is enough for something to have made my list, because so much of what I saw when I started scrolling through the new releases or the even remotely recent releases was a snooze fest. Next up, let's talk about this Fenty Beauty release. So this long-awaited product, which had originally been given a problematic name, and so then it was pulled, and then they renamed it Ruby Riches, and they're releasing it. We've known that it was coming for a long time because of that whole debacle. And it's basically a red highlighter, or like a highlighter blush combo. It is so attractive conceptually and sort of physically. So you see the image, it's like I'm a real sucker for the Fenty Beauty packaging, and it's that big, gorgeous, chunky, jewel-shaped hexagonal packaging with just one beautiful, gleaming red pan, like a big red eyeshadow. And I love the color. I love the idea of blush draping with this. I love that it can work as a highlighter or a blush depending on your skin tone. I just love it. Kudos to Fenty. I'm all about this business. I'm not gonna buy it because it's so impractical when you look at like the size and what it is. I feel like any eyeshadow that I have that is close to this color and finish, and there are some, I could use it in lieu of this and I will never go through it. And it would take me even longer to ever go through this. So it's kind of like I don't know, if you've budgeted in your life for occasionally buying one thing that's like kind of ridiculous, but part of what makes it feel so yummy to you is its ridiculousness. Like, this is the definition of extra to me. If you've budgeted for that in your life, not just with money, but also with space in your house and room in your spirit, and it's part of your health, then I completely understand why this would be the choice for the month or the year or the season, or why it would be on your wish list for the holidays or something like that. I just really, really like it. But for me, when I think about like making a purchase, this is a no from me, just because it's so extra that it's extra to my budget and kind of extra to the budget of space that I have for stuff. Oh, this is interesting. So I recently spoke against sets. If you're a literary person out there like I am, you know that there's sort of a literary trope of calling something against X. Like I have a poem actually called Against Destruction. You sometimes see poems that are like against love or like against beaches or something. I mean, there's not really a poem called Against Beaches, not that I know of, but you see what I'm saying. Like against blah-de-blah is like this framing device for poets and writers of other kinds as well. And so I feel like recently in what video was that in? Oh yes, the video that I made about how to get through the holiday season without overspending. I had specifically a part that was against sets. It was giving the advice to be suspicious of sets when you go into Sephora or into any shops where they have sets like this, and just to sort of check yourself before you wreck yourself on the altar of sets, because they can be so attractive. They really push our buttons. They make us feel like we're getting a lot for a little. And so I was basically saying, like, question that desire, question that impulse, question whether what you're getting is actually useful to you, and question whether you're really spending that little money. Actually, all of that applies to this set. However, this set, it's a perfect example of the kind of set for me that brings me up to the edge of like ignoring my own advice, which is why I want to talk about it in this video. So it's the set from Kaja. Here is the number one reason that it makes me want to buy it. It has something in it that I've wanted for a long time, which is one of the bento boxes, the Kaja Sparkle bento box. You guys know what I'm talking about, like the three, it's got like, you know what I'm talking about. It's little thing of 3 eyeshadows and a little thing together. I have been coveting these things for months. Gosh, like since towards the beginning of the year, since they first popped into Sephora. The first time I was in there, when they were in there, I swatched them, I put one on my eyes, and ever since then, and gosh, I haven't been in a Sephora in a really long time at this point. I can't even remember when the last time was that I was in a Sephora. It was months ago at this point. I've just kind of fallen off of going ever shopping. Like, I just feel like, who has time for that, you know? But for the first part of the year, I was kind of frequenting malls and going into Sephora from time to time. And every time I went in, I would literally create an eye look with one of these bento boxes. And then I would go home and I would love the way that it looked, and I would wish that I had purchased it, because they're on that line between being a good price and not a good price for my budget. They break down to about $7 a shadow, which is kind of a lot for a single shadow. But altogether, you're getting this whole little palette of 3 for $25, I think, is something like that, $24, $25, which isn't that much for like a beautiful little makeup item from Sephora. But at the same time, in my budget of $200 a month for all beautiful things, including clothing, you know, that includes things like shoes if I need to replace some, underwear, etc., including all of that stuff, $25 is kind of a big bite out of it. It's an eighth. And so I just could never pull the trigger. But then I would get home and I would see the eye look in my eyes and I would be like, I should have bought it. $25, not that much. So I had this like push-pull relationship, and it wasn't just a dream. Like, I had actually tried them in store several times and I actually know that I like them. So I never brought myself to buy one, and then time passed and I kind of just forgot about them, which is always what happens. But there's one in this set, and the entire set is $40. So of course my old lizard brain, shopping brain starts going like, oh, $40, that's just $15 more than that thing that you might have eventually bought. Already that's kind of a lie, because I think I've passed it. I think I've gotten to the point where I wouldn't eventually buy it, but I like tricking myself into thinking that I would when I'm using this false logic. I'm like, you would have bought that one day. That's $25, and so the whole rest of it, you're getting all the rest of it for $15. This is how that flawed logic works. So you're getting these two eyeshadow shimmer gooey things, which I don't like. I never like stuff like that. Liquid eyeshadows are really hard for me to work with because they dry down, they create a line, they don't really work with my style, but still in this setting they seem so attractive because they're basically free. Some sort of lip stain product is so pretty. You're getting one of the blushes, which is something I've always wanted to try. You're getting one of the highlighters, which is something I've always wanted to try. I have been really curious about Kaja, and there have been several times when I've gone on the site and I've put like 3 or 4 Kaja products in my cart. I've considered doing like a video all about testing out products from Kaja. Like, they're selling something to me that I have toyed with the idea of buying, but because it's a set, the price is lower overall if I were to buy all of these things. And when I go through that logic in my head, I'm forgetting, A, that I probably wouldn't ever have gone back and bought that eyeshadow bento box because it's so in the past of my desires. B, that I don't like these liquid eyeshadows ever. C, and this is kind of crucial, that these aren't really my colors. Like, the blush is really, the lip stain is really dark, the blush is really dark. These aren't the colors of the things that I have historically kind of put in my cart and taken out of my cart. These aren't the colors I would have chosen. And yet, this set, for all of those reasons that I've been talking about over the past hour and a half, for all of those reasons, it called to me enough for me to want to talk about it in this video, because they've almost got me with it. It's like they know what they need to do to get me, and they're doing all of those things, and it's harder for me to resist than other sets that make less logical sense to me. So I kind of wanted to throw that up here on the screen, talk it through with you, and just, make of that what you will. I don't think I'm gonna buy this. Like, maybe if I end up in Sephora around the holiday season and I see it in person and I get a chance to swatch the other colors, maybe I'll talk myself into it. I'm not up here saying like that absolutely won't happen, but I'm not like freaking out and putting it in my cart to check out before the Sephora sale ends, which is what this ad on Trendmood is trying to get me to do, which I'm not even sure if the Sephora sale is still going on. Oh, this one's really interesting, and again, it kind of reveals my desperation for things that are interesting enough to talk about. CoverGirl is releasing a new foundation, and I don't wear foundation. I'm not really on the hunt for foundation, and it's very, very difficult for me, if not impossible, to find a foundation that works for me at the drugstore because I have very, very pale, neutral to yellow toned skin. So at the drugstore, either things don't go pale enough for me, or they go that pale but then they're pink toned and they make my face look red compared to my very yellowish white neck. So drugstore foundations usually just fly over my head. Releases, reviews, whatever, it's not something I pay attention to. But this one has a really good name. It's called the Clean Fresh Skin Milk Nourishing. I don't know if I'm putting the correct emphasis on that. Would you say the Clean Fresh Skin Milk? I think that's correct. The Clean Fresh Skin Milk. So CoverGirl's like, we've bottled clean, fresh skin milk. We've bottled skin milk, and it's clean and fresh. Sort of seems like that's what the name is implying, and I'm sort of here for it. The Clean Fresh Skin Milk Nourishing Foundation is with coconut milk and aloe extract. It's a dewy finish that gives your skin the moisture boost, lasts all day long, blurring imperfections and creating a more even skin tone. That sounds so amazing to me. It says it's light covered natural finish. I mean, if I were gonna buy a foundation, then this would be the one. Not this one, but something like this is what I would be looking for. But it's funny, the marketing is so on point. The poet that they've got working for them, and they're department and their advertising department is so on point that it makes me want to like test and try and buy this and watch reviews, even though the style of product, the whole genre of product, foundation, is literally one that doesn't do anything for me, that doesn't serve me. So it interests me that I had that reaction to that product. All right, we're getting into some eyeshadow. Usually I try to like front load with the eyeshadow because it's so fun to talk about. I don't want to wait. And this time I'm literally all over the place. But I want to talk about the Pat McGrath palette because I have no real interest in it. And I do love rich textured neutrals, and you would think that as somebody who has never purchased a Pat McGrath palette and is always kind of waiting for one to be up my alley enough to make me buy it or make me want it or make me put it on my wish list, as that person you would think that I would be like, wow, she's coming closer than she ever has before with this. Because if I'm honest, I would be more likely to use any shade in this palette than I would ever be to use all shades in any of her other palettes, because they're these beautiful kind of golds and bronzes and mauves, and it seems like there are still some special shades in here. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, wow, yeah, it's like so pretty to me. It's just like wah wah wah. Like that's how I feel when I look at it. I just don't want to buy a palette like this for that much money. It just isn't exciting. And it might also be because she just released another one that has a bit more color interest. It's got a little purple, a little green, a little bit of something to sink your teeth into, and then it also has some neutrals on offer. And I guess I just feel like if you're going, well, I was about to say something that I totally don't believe. I was about to say, I guess part of me feels like if you're going to spend $120 on a luxury palette, like you're going to spend luxury prices and buy a luxury palette, you want it to have a little something extra in terms of kind of color, a little something for me that's going to push me to the edge of my comfort zone or push me outside my comfort zone. I think maybe, I don't necessarily believe that. I think that I do agree with the opposite theory, the theory of buying something, if you're going to spend $125, buying something that is directly, squarely in the center of your comfort zones, that you know that that good money is going to go to good use. It's kind of like the question of the editorial blouse versus the jeans, the gold jeans, the two things that I spent my budget on over the past 2 months. Like one is a really special occasion piece and one is a really practical everyday piece. But each time I spent my whole budget on that piece. So I was asking you guys, like, which one makes more sense to you? What are you more likely to do? Are you more likely to spend a luxury amount of money on a basic and then have a luxury basic that's in use almost every day? Or if you're spending a luxury amount of money, are you more likely to spend on something special occasion or something really dramatic or different for you? And I think that I agree equally with both. I've done both. Recently, I have done both. I have done each one. I think that with Pat McGrath, it's because she's trained me to think of her as the equivalent of the editorial blouse. So everything she's released so far has been that to me. I know that not everything she's released has seemed not neutral to everyone. Some of her palettes are more neutral to some people, but to me, all of them are kind of like that editorial blouse type of makeup. And so I've grown to expect that from her and to feel the excitement that her releases generate are related to that kind of feeling, that specialness and that differentness. And this isn't that. It's more of like the ripped jeans, the designer jeans. And so it just fell flat for me in my heart. I wanted to briefly touch on this Moon Dust palette because some of you have tagged me in it, and gosh, it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. And if I didn't have so much eyeshadow, if I didn't have so much beautiful glittery eyeshadow, I might be lining up to either buy this or to put it on my wish list, because this is the exact kind of thing that I would love to dig into. I just feel like it reminds me a little bit of my Rowan quad, but the Rowan shadows are so innovative in texture and these Moon Dust shadows aren't quite as innovative. It reminds me a little bit of just like a toned down and not multi-chromatic or not duochromatic version of some of these extraordinary shadows that I have recently acquired. The ones I've had from JD Glow for a long time, the ones that I have from Cleona. I just have so many unbelievably gorgeous statement shadows and glitter shadows right now that this one, Ooh, it's hard though, because the moon dust formula can give a really, really, really wet look. And a lot of the extraordinary glitter shadows that I have are colorful in some way or extraordinary in some way. So there is an attraction. There is an attraction here. I might look at it in store. I'm not, how much does it cost? $29? I mean, that's like right on that edge of something that I don't know. I love neutrals, that I love glittery neutrals. It would be a very extra purchase for me if I were to purchase this. It would be extra. It would be kind of outside of the realm of what I'm the most into doing right now. And it would probably be, if I saw it in store and ended up buying it, it would probably be kind of like a little bit of an impulse. But it would be one that's like within the corner of my budget that's financially comfortable for me. So it's interesting. I think that the title, the packaging, the shape, like the colors that they've chosen, everything about it really appeals to a little Hannah. A little Hannah sitting over here, and this is appealing to her a lot. So I'll be curious to see what happens if I ever see this in person. But I'm not making an effort. I'm not like going out to see it because I really want to swatch it because it's perfect for me and all that stuff. I'm just kind of like, I see you, Urban Decay, kind of killing it here, surprising me with something that I'm more interested in than I am in some of what's being released right now. It's kind of interesting that it's not colorful because so many people are releasing color right now. The ugly rainbow train is still chugging along, and I think that that was a smart choice. All right, I'm going to move on to the next thing. I keep hemming and hawing about this one because it turns out that I'm actually kind of interested in it. Oh, here's something that makes my heart go pitter patter like so hard, but that I know that I'm not going to buy. And that is one of the things that I think is the most interesting to talk about. It's the Melt collection. Did they nail it or did they nail it? It's so good. They did such a good job. And I say this as a person who watches makeup trends and new makeup releases like a sports fan watching sports. Like I watch and I'm like waiting for people to do well. I'm excited to see like who's gonna fumble the ball, who's gonna make an amazing throw and an amazing catch and like score a bunch of points. Like I'm just so interested in it. It's so exciting to watch. And so when somebody, well, I need like a sports analogy. When somebody does really well at sports in a game with points and balls and sticks and nets, just gonna leave it there. Hashtag metaphor realness. When somebody knocks it out of the park, I get excited, even if I myself am not going to buy that thing. When it's at this level, when somebody executes at this level so beautifully, I just can't help but be excited. It's just exciting. It's so, so, so exciting. So the whole thing is gorgeous. The theming, the concept, the packaging, the time of year, the way that they went with it, everything about it is so spot on. I live for that. But of all of the individual pieces that they've released, the one that I feel such feelings about that it kind of hurts. It's like my heart sort of like hurting a little bit when I look at it, is the blue and red and teal one. I can't remember which one is called. I think it's the Muerte. Yes, it must be the one called Muerte. It is so pretty. It is a work of art. These colors, it just gives everything to me. It's got the kind of rainbow going on because there's red. There's not orange and yellow, but the blend from red to burgundy to blue with that gray and then to the teals at the end, it's sort of like a part of a really dark, grungy rainbow. Applause. I mean, it's just, I love looking at it. I love seeing the packaging. I love hearing people talk about it because I'm so happy that this beautiful thing exists. I love color so much, and this just reminds me of how amazing color is, how beautiful it can be. It's just like the feeling of loving art, you know? And I just love that. I love it when, okay, I'm gonna stop gushing. The reason I'm not going to buy this is because it's mostly matte. And I've just realized recently that I just don't want to pay a premium for more matte shadows in my life because I have all the ones I need. I just use them as tools to build looks around really incredible, shifting, colorful shadows. Or not colorful, but textured, glimmery, sometimes color shifting. I love color, when it's also sort of anything from satin through to like super multi-chrome glitter, I can really get behind that. But I'm not about to, I mean, I think there are only 2 metallic shadows in this, and even they don't have much texture interest. They're just like a basic good metallic. And then all of the rest are mattes. And so matte lovers or matte users even, this is perfect. But for me, it is just impractical. It would be impractical for me to buy something just because I think it's stunningly gorgeous. When what was I thinking about? It was like this morning I was envisioning myself building like a little palette of my perfect mattes, like the only mattes I'll ever need, like 6 or 8 matte shadows that I use to support my other looks, and then literally never buying or keeping a matte eyeshadow ever again, and only collecting extraordinary, strange textured formulas and just like having this go-to palette of mattes. Like in a perfect world, that is what I would do. So this just isn't a good release for me because it's a pretty much a palette of beautiful matte shadows. And then all of the rest is in the collection. I obviously think it's gorgeous, but none of it is useful to me or different or interesting enough to make me want to buy it. That palette is the one that really, I appreciate everything, but that palette is the one, if one thing were to kind of like make me buy it, it would be that, but no, there's no reason to. Okay, let's talk about Huda. Let's talk about this Huda palette. I went through a week where I wanted this so bad. This was a while ago. I feel like this got released right after my last Will I Buy It? Or was it in my last Will I Buy It? That can't be. No, I just looked it up and it had not been released yet when I filmed that anti-haul of new releases, which was my most recent video in this style. And when I kind of woke up from my dream of talking to you on my camera, I noticed that it's getting dark again. It's like after daylight savings, I feel like this is gonna happen every time because this is my filming window. It's only 4 o'clock, 4:15. It's 4:15 over here. This is like the time of day, literal day, during which I usually film. And already the sun is setting dramatically and it's gonna make me look really dramatic in about half an hour. It's gonna be dark in here. So I'll try to get the show on the road. I have like one long hair incorporated into my bangs there. We have cleared the decks to talk about this Huda palette. I didn't talk about it last time, and my little hair is out of my face, and I just addressed the fact that the sun is magically once again setting. Why did I want this? Because of the texture. Because of the textures and the, at this time in makeup history, rather innovative, maybe innovative is the wrong word, fresh color story, right? These sort of rich, glowy pastels. And then if you watch the video, which I made the mistake of doing on the Sephora website, which is like, you know how sometimes if you're looking at the listings, there's like a little video that's been produced. They have them like digging into the textured and glittery shadows, and it looks so creamy and amazing. And it just was like, I just wanted it. I was like watching that. I was looking at the pictures and the swatches, and I was looking at that video, and I was like, I really, really want this palette. I think I also kind of fell for the packaging, that kind of clear, really mirrored, like it looks almost like a lucite mirrored piece of furniture. I really like that style of furniture, and they like encapsulated the idea of that in this palette. I was just like, I want this object, and I want to know what I would do with these shadows and these colors. So I thought about putting it on my wish list. I kind of did in my mind. I was like, I'm going to put this on my Christmas wish list and let my family know that it's the kind of thing that I would like to receive as a gift, because I wasn't about to go buy it. I wasn't about to go spend $70 of my budget. That in my mind, because I'm like rounding up dramatically all the time, that's like half my budget. $70, even though it's $200 a month. I wasn't about to wipe out half my budget with this eyeshadow palette, but I wanted it so bad. I was like, I'm gonna put it on my wish list and hopefully someone will give it to me for Christmas. Maybe I'll buy it after Christmas. You know, I went through the gigs. I went through them. And then it was like, just as soon as the gigs had befallen me, the gigs were gone. I think it sort of matched up with this the hype dying down, which happens very quickly these days. Like something will be hyped for like a week and a half, and then all of a sudden no one's talking about it anymore. And that kind of happened. Like everyone who was going to buy this bought it, reviewed it. It was no longer new, and then the hype literally died like a very quick death. And then the gigs also took their leave. And I was suddenly like, gosh, I'm not even sure I want this on my wish list anymore. And I started kind of covering up. If you cover up the two teals, it looks incredibly neutral. I don't even feel like I would make that many teal looks. And I do have shadows in that color that I could use if I really wanted to play with them. But I don't even want to dupe the vibes anymore, because it wasn't really about the eye looks that I would make with this. It was really about the object. It was about the way that they constructed and packaged the object of this palette, and then about those textures. But when I woke up from the gigs, I was like, I got texture coming out my ears. I went to the tango festival this past weekend. That's why I was gone this past weekend. I was at a tango marathon working. Joe and I took the clothes that we sell for our livelihood and went up to San Francisco, and we sold the clothes. We had a little booth at the tango marathon and we sold the clothes. So because it was a tango marathon, it's like a fun opportunity for me to do the most with makeup. Filming is one opportunity that I have, not today, but sometimes to do the most. And then going to a tango event is another opportunity to do the most with makeup, because people are dressed up, the lighting is kind of dim. So it's really, really fun to I just built these really rich, creamy, sparkly eye looks every day that we were at the marathon. But gosh, I wish I had it to hand. Where is it? I do have it to hand. So to take with me to that festival, I built this little palette. It has a bunch of my Cliona glitter multichromes and one or two of the actual multichrome. What are the ones that aren't glitter? The jeweled multichromes, one or two of those. It has a selection of my Adept singles, those are the big square ones, and two Natasha Denona singles. And among them, there are some blue, you can see it flashing sort of teal as I move it. It kind of looks like I duped the vibes of the Mercury Retrograde palette, except that there are no mattes in here except for the black and this burgundy. So there's a burgundy there, which that's one of the mattes that Huda has in her palette too. There's a almost black purple, and there's a burgundy. Holy bananas, I didn't realize that I had done that, but I kind of duped the vibes of this palette, except for me with my palette, I'm like, matte shadows, I don't know her, because that's how I live my life. Whereas in the Huda palette, it's like matte shadows, she's our best friend. That is not for me. I don't want that. This is for me. And the ones that are here that aren't matte, all of the duochromes, the Cliona ones, even some of the ones from Adept are beyond what I think Huda has probably done in her formula. So this was accidental. I didn't mean to do the vibes with this palette, but I totally have. The reason I even brought this out to then be surprised by that fact is that when I was using this weekend, I was just nothing is better. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to have bought and received these eyeshadows. Some of them have come in PR and some of them I have purchased, but as a set together, I'm so lucky to have ownership over these unbelievable, extraordinary, special eyeshadows. This little corner of my collection that I chose to bring with me, the best of the best. It's so much more special than the eyeshadows in this admittedly very beautiful object. But I think that it was partly the hype dying, and it was partly the making of this little palette of dreams that just killed it for me. And at this point, if somebody were planning to get me a gift, say my dad or something was planning to get me a Christmas gift, and there was one shot for him to get one thing, and he used that shot on this palette, I would be disappointed that he hadn't chosen something else. So it is well and truly off of my Christmas wish list, along with it being off of my own might buy it someday in my fantasy list. Moving on, the Norvina minis, Yawntown, Boringville. I mean, what? I don't even want to talk about them for that long, because I feel like they're not seasonal. Even the packaging is very confusing. Was there some sort of accident? And also they are just the condensed versions of the big palettes that just got released literally 1 minute ago. Maybe I'm not the right person to speak on this, because I'm feeling more and more as time passes that ABH and I are on different trains, different trains going to different ends of the earth. So there are some people who are kind of on that ABH train, And maybe they're the people who should speak to this, because not only is this not for me, but I'm having a hard time really getting why it would be a better idea than the purchase of like a ColourPop 9-pan palette or 9 singles from Cleona or something. I mean, those would be more expensive when you add them all together, but I don't know. Or what was the other $29? The moon dust thing. Well, that's very specific to me. So I do understand why a large portion of society would prefer to spend $29 on this than on the moon dust thing. But not when you stack it up against things like ColourPop palettes. Maybe it's a quality issue, but I never liked the quality of ABH. I'm going to move on from this. Bewildering. Okay, let's discuss, this is a little weird. This might be a little weird for some of you that I'm choosing to talk about this, but I just couldn't not touch on this when I saw the image. Well, two things happened. What I'm talking about is the KKW fragrance release, the collaboration with her sisters. So two things happened. First, I saw the Beauty News girls talking about it. When they described the fragrances, even though there was some debacle with them having like 3 different descriptions of each fragrance, but when I heard them describing the fragrances, I was just like, wow, it sounds like they really designed those fragrances for me. Like, I love the notes. I've never really smelled any of KKW fragrances, so I don't know how well they wear, if they would suit my body chemistry, if they smell really synthetic, if they smell really high-end, if they smell really indie. I don't really know. I have no idea whether the actual fragrance would be something I would like. But the idea of them and the way that they were described, I was like, yeah, like I like where they're going with that. And then I saw this image on Trend Mood, and it's just so iconic. It's just so beautiful. The shape of these sort of jeweled bottles, and then the fact that they got these really big bottles, and they're all wearing monochromatic outfits that are turtlenecks, and they're 3 slightly different shades of sort of like beigey, pinky, nudie, crystally. It's like these crystally colors against a white background, and then their hair is all blown out, and it just looks so iconic. It looks so editorial. It looks like historical and contemporary at the same time. And I really respect that. And I feel like I've said this before, whenever I've touched on KKW Beauty, it's always been to talk about how I feel like, even though I have no desire to try any of her formulas, I feel like with the packaging, she's really nailed it. Like, I just love that fleshy looking neutral packaging. I think it's so, so pretty. There's something, I feel like the taste level of the messaging, and I don't feel like this about everything that Kim Kardashian does in her life. And I think that might be part of why it surprises me so much, why it seems noteworthy, why it seems talking about. I feel like the taste level of the messaging and the imagery and the styling in her brand is very, very, very high and very me. I actually feel like the taste level of that styling and messaging is close to the top of the taste level for all brands in makeup and beauty. When I look at the way that all of the other brands I'm discussing today have styled their, their vibe, for me personally, I think that this image might be the winner. And it's like, it's just beautiful. I don't know if it's her. I mean, I doubt it's her. It's like whoever is on her team or whoever she's hired to be the one who makes the final decision, if it's not her, about styling and about imagery and concept for her brand. That's the person I'd like to hire if I were going to do it, because I just feel like whoever it is understands how you make something feel iconic, and therefore how you make it feel quality, and therefore you make people want to own it and buy it and incorporate it into their lives. So noteworthy, interesting. Doesn't make me want to buy these fragrances, but it did make me want to talk about them on my channel. Oh, I wanted to touch on this Milani release because it's another situation, not at all similar, but similar in the way that they've styled it and presented it makes my little heart go pitter patter, even though I'm not planning to buy it. I did recently have a Milani palette. I got the chance to try one out. It was the Dark Night Blackout. It was the Night Trick Glitter, something about the nighttime, and it was sort of like a grungy rainbow, and I swatched it on my Instagram stories, and I really enjoyed getting the chance to use it. And there were some really beautiful shadows in there. There was even a duochrome that was like a spot-on dupe for Nabla Alchemy, which is like that iconic Nabla shadow. Really amazing. But it was a little uneven. Like, I would say close to half of the shadows in that palette, if not about a third, maybe close, maybe between a third and a half of the shadows in there were a little chalky, and then all the rest were really quite good. And so if I were a normal girl, if I was just a regular consumer and I wasn't on YouTube and I didn't have so much eyeshadow and I purchased it, I don't think I would have been disappointed, and I think I could easily have like used it up as like my Tango Looks palette in an alternate universe where I never got into YouTube. So I'm not against that palette. It's just for me, because I have so much, it was sort of like someone else could get that kind of use out of it, whereas for me it was just going to languish. So I ended up giving it away. But I did develop sort of like a grudging and slightly grain of salty respect for Milani eyeshadows. My experience with that palette was like, oh yeah, you can get a lot of really beautiful eyeshadow in a Milani palette, and then some of the shades might be duds. That's what I suspect is true of this palette too, but it's very, very beautiful. And then the actual reason that I decided to mention it in this video, of all things, is this duo where there's like a really shiny silvery gold glitter and then like a gold eyeshadow, this little duo, and it's like a circle pan and split in half, which they just did a really good job, okay? And I just wanted to, again, like give them a little nod. The Charlotte Tilbury palette is, again, I think for probably many of us, kind of a snooze fest, or it's also a situation where it's like, if you want some slightly pale neutral shadows, just like get like the ColourPop equivalent, like don't shell out this dough for something so basic. I feel like that's going to be a lot of people's responses to this, a lot of people in the makeup community. It's this new Charlotte Tilbury easy pretty eyes type of thing. But I always like to, here's the thing. The last time I talked about Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow, it was the big version, her like bigger holiday palette where there's like the little trios all together. And what I said about that was that in the same alternate universe that I just referenced, where I never got into YouTube, but I continued to kind of enjoy makeup and explore makeup, and every once in a while I would buy one staple palette and then use it all up. In that alternate universe, I could have really seen myself buying that big Charlotte Tilbury palette, because I would have wanted something, if I was just buying one palette every 2 years, it wouldn't have been a problem for me that it was like an $80 palette. And I would have kind of liked the idea that I was using luxury eyeshadows if I was just using one palette. The same is true of this. Like I could really see myself non-YouTube Hannah. And I don't just mean non-YouTube content creator. I mean, if I had never started watching YouTube, so I had never gained like the extra knowledge about makeup, that Hannah, I could have seen that Hannah turning into like a Charlotte Tilbury devotee. Like I could have seen Charlotte Tilbury becoming my brand in my 30s. And then I could have seen myself going on to supplement my makeup collection with this exact palette and getting a lot of use out of it. So I respect it, but I'm myself, I'm not going to buy it. Lethal is continuing to taunt me. They've released these 9 new shadows, and I think that what they've done is to release a 9-pan magnetic palette that you can pop shadows into, and maybe you can build, yes, customizable 9-pan palette. So you can now build your own palette with this like 9-pan palette rather than their other, I think it must be like a 16-pan where they're all in together. This one's a 9-pan and they're separated by like bars of packaging. I mean, it's just, everything they do is gorgeous. I'm really tempted to make a purchase from them. I really want to try their eyeshadows. I'm constantly on their build your own palette little tool, building my own palette and seeing how it would look and making like my perfect palette. I posted one on Instagram, and someday maybe I'll place an order from Lethal and I'll kind of like build my own perfect palette and try out and review their shadows. I don't think I'm there yet right now. I think it's because of my budget. It's like I'm just really into using every drop of my budget for, right now, honestly, like for clothes. Like I'm just really into getting some beautiful pieces of clothing that I feel really, really good wearing. Because I think partly because I've cleaned out my closet so thoroughly, and because the seasons are changing, and because I'm like growing and changing, and I'm now in my mid-30s, whereas a lot of these clothes I bought in my late 20s. I just feel like buying a blouse for $100, or let's give the Lethal palette as like the equivalent. I think that it would be like even 50 or 60 bucks maybe for me to build my own big palette from Lethal. If I, or maybe it's even more than that, it's like somewhere around the 50 to 70 or something like that. Whatever. Say it's 60 bucks. If I were to spend that same $60 and buy myself like a top, even if it was just a basic wool top like this one, like a semi-sheer black long sleeve wool top, I just, these days, for where I am right now, I feel like that would go further towards daily satisfaction and comfort and style in my life than more eyeshadow, even though I'm dying to try their formula and some of their colors really excite me, and I would love to like talk about them on my channel because I really like supporting small makeup brands, and I do someday hope to make a purchase from them. Even though all of that is true, where I am right now, literally, it just means more to me to put that money towards one beautiful piece of clothing. So that's kind of like what I'm tending towards doing right now. So that's pretty much the only reason I haven't bought anything from Lethal yet. And I do think that these colors are beautiful, and everything that they do, to me, everything I've seen is impeccable. I'm really like worshiping them from afar over here. Okay, the sun is like basically set, and I'm starting to lose my little voice. And I just realized I'm not totally sure what we're doing about dinner, which is my responsibility in this household. I plan and make dinner, and then Joe does all the cleaning, which is amazing. But now it's like 4:30, and we just got back from this trip, so there's not really any food in the house. I'm defrosting for some meat, but I'm not sure it's defrosted yet. I don't know what we're gonna do. So I might need to problem solve. All of this is just to say, I need to wrap up this video, and I have to edit this video for tomorrow because it's going up, because that's where we are right now in Hannah Louise Poston's life. That's where we are. We're like, is the meat going to be defrosted in time? X. Gotta edit this video before tomorrow. That's the collab that's happening over here. This is all just to say I don't really have anything to say about ColourPop's barrage of releases since we last spoke. We Are Coconuts looks to me like, I mean, I love brown. I love tan. These bronzers look pretty in this picture. Is any of this new? I don't know. Weird time of year to release that. No desire to buy. I haven't even so usually with ColourPop, I don't buy this stuff, but I do go to their website and like look at the listings. That's my ritual. It'll be like, ColourPop released a new collection and I'll be like, ooh, and I'll click through to the website and I'll look at all the listings and I'll read their descriptions and I'll look at the pictures and the swatches just to like keep up with the Joneses, you know? I'm just like, I just want to know, and I want to know like what they're calling it, and I want to know how they're selling it, and I'm curious, like, just let me live my life, okay? Like I like that stuff. With all of these, coconuts, Bibby, the bubblegum one, we're just gonna call it the bubblegum, it's a collab with Bitty, Pony's makeup, somebody that I don't know much about. I mean, I think obviously she's like very widely followed, but I don't know much about her. This whole bubblegum inspired one, I mean, the glitter looks really good to me. I love that stuff, but I just haven't even looked. Like, it's gone way over my head. And then the Frozen Elsa inspired, and who's Elsa's sister? The Elsa one looks pretty because there's like this white multi-chrome shifting glitter in the middle, like but all of it's kind of like looks, my feeling is like they're flying past my face and I'm like, that looks pretty, something looked a little bit pretty in that one, nice name, I like tan, like that's what's happening to me. And I'm like not even, and I'm just sitting here and they're flying past my face and I'm not even going to the website to check them out. And that's where I'm at with ColourPop right now. It's partly because there's so much going on in my life and in the makeup world, but it's also because they have not released anything of distinction. Because if they released a collection of weight and distinction, even amongst all of these other flying past my face releases, if they did that, I would be like, and I would like go to the website and check it out. Like, I'm capable of that, and they're capable of doing that to me, and they're just holding off. So maybe the best is yet to come with ColourPop holiday. We'll see. But that's all I have to say about the colorful releases. And that's everything. We've gotten to the end of my little list of things about which I had something to say. And I'm gonna go do all the things and edit this video and hopefully get it up in time. Now that I'm back from all my trips, I'm hoping to do more filming and have more videos up, more consistent. Well, no, I mean, I've been very consistent. I've just been infrequent, consistently infrequent over the past couple of weeks. I'm hoping to start posting more videos. And I think I am also going to put my camera in the overhead position maybe over the weekend and film a bunch of overhead videos. I know some of you guys really love those, so a slew of those will be upcoming. We will see. It's a little bit touch and go over here if you haven't noticed, and it's time for me to stop talking and start worrying about meat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think down below about all of these new releases. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.